The Manitowish Waters Historical Society presents an interview with Bill Waffle, October 2nd, 2018. On a late summer day, John McFarland brought Mr. Bill Waffle to the Manitowish Waters Library to be interviewed. Waffle was in his mid-90s and full of wonderful memories of summers spent on Wild Rice Lake. The Waffle family initially rented cottages on the Conrad Bakken family resort, and later purchased their own summer home on the lake. Bill's father first found Manitowish Waters in Boulder Junction through friendships made while on the job on the New York Central Railroad. Tales of outstanding fishing and hunting lured the railroad men to come and experience the Manitowish Waters. The men found the Bakken accommodations and began lifelong friendships with the Bakken family. After a while, they began bringing their families north as well. Waffle relates many interesting facts about the Bakken family as he weaves his personal story through the adventures of his childhood, raising his own family, and then retirement. In all these phases of life, one place was in his heart, the Wisconsin Northwoods.
I was kind of hoping that Boker would be here because I'm looking for a name for this couple here. Is Conrad and Mrs. Bakken, and they were first ones up on Wild Rice Lake.
So that would be Ricky Bakken's grandparents.
It's Lynn Bakken's mother and father,
Okay.
and
Lynn.
yeah,
Yes.
and then
That's a wonderful picture.
then Clint is way back.
So Clint is Ricky's grandson, or Ricky's son. Clint was Ricky's son.
And Clint.
Yeah, and Lynn was his grandpa.
Yeah.
And this is the great grandpa.
That's a great picture.
But I can never. They used to. If you ever look back when you do go down Bakken Road, you look back towards where their place was. It's a straight road.
Yep.
There's a house right there, and that's where these people lived. He built the place. Mm-hmm. He built everything there. And when I was a little kid, she used to have a doghouse out in front. And I'd go out there and I'd play with that dog when I was just real little. And we'd crawl in and out of that doghouse. I'll never forget that. And of course, Len was he was about 9 years older than me. And he, when I was there were no trees at all. And Len would get the job of cutting the grass out there. So they had a tractor, and I'd ride around on the back of that tractor with Leonard while we cut the grass.
That's cool. Can we get a picture of that? Can we copy that picture?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay,
I guess
got it on camera, but I'll copy it. I'll copy it too.
you could
Can
take it apart if you want and take it out of there.
Thank you. It should copy good like this. Can you spell your name out? Is your given name Bill or William or?
Oh, people call me Bill.
Okay.
Some call me other things.
And your last name Bill Waffle, right?
Yeah.
Waff.
L.E.
And when were you born?
May 23rd, 1923.
Wow, 96.
Well, not quite.
95 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, my poor adding. And where were you born?
Born in a little town on the border of Ohio and Indiana. It's called Butler, Indiana.
Butler, Indiana.
Yeah. Butler.
What brought your family to Manitowish Waters
Well,
and Boulder Junction?
My dad worked on the railroad. He was a freight agent. And guys that come in there on locals off the road, switching cars and stuff. And he became very good friends with one of the guys on on the switch engine. And his name was Ray Rose. And the boys got together, and somebody on the railroad discovered this place up here. So they started coming up here back in the maybe late 1900s. And because when I was born in 23 there, you know, they'd been coming up here for 3 or 4 or 5 years.
What railroad did he work for?
New York Central.
New York Central
Mhm.
Railroad. Okay.
There is no more New York Central.
But through the railroad connection,
Yeah, yeah,
you found this area, or your dad.
yeah, yeah.
And can you tell us your mother and dad's names?
Yeah, well, my mom's name was Maud.
I can take that.
My dad's name was Grover.
Grover?
Yeah. Grover Cleveland Waffle.
Oh, he was named after Grover Cleveland.
Yeah.
That's your dad?
Yeah.
And then Maud, what was her maiden name?
Lighter. Lieter.
Lieter. Okay. Were they both from Indiana originally?
No, Ohio.
Ohio.
Yeah, down close to Toledo,
Okay.
that area. Delta was the name of the town where they were.
Delta, Ohio.
It was their hometown.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I had a sister. She's 10 years older than I, and she passed away a long time ago.
What was her name?
Helen.
Helen? Okay. All right, so your father met someone on the railroad connection that brought him up. And why did he want to come to the Northwoods?
Oh, they were fishermen.
Ah, okay.
Back then, you could catch fish on these lakes.
And what do you have any memories of him talking about the fishing at the turn of the century?
Oh, well, yeah, they used to catch. Oh, I got some pictures here I can show you. But there's a hilarious time they were out for muskie. And my dad caught a muskie. And back in those days, they didn't use nets. They shot them. Well, one time we had this muskie on, and reeling it up there, and one of the guys was going to shoot it. Guess what? He shot the line. Yeah. The poor fish got reprieved.
He sure did. That's pretty hard to shoot a line with a bullet. Imagine.
That's what they told me.
And was the first place that they came was to the Bakken property?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, this Conrad, you know, there's another resort next door to him. It was Cops,
Okay.
and he built that.
Conrad Bakken built.
Yeah, he had
Cops.
He had actually 2 resorts. Well, then they had hard times with depression, and they owed some money. They had, one of their daughters was in a medical facility, and it was taking a lot of money, and so he lost it, and that was sad. But anyhow, he built all those buildings, and he used to construct all the boats. He built the boats, and they were heavy, man. They were heavy, and every year, when they wanted to put them back in the water, they would leak up until a certain time, and then they would expand. And then they were excellent boats to fish out of. I have a...
So you think maybe Cops Resort was one of the 2 resorts that that Conrad Bakken had?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's That's interesting.
Yeah.
And when your parents came up, how long did they usually stay with Bakkens?
Only a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But they became very good friends.
Yeah, they did.
Oh,
That is a picture of me and my future wife.
so sweet. Oh my gosh. Look at that.
And was she a tourist or was she a local from up north?
No, she was a daughter of one of the railroad guys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can I make a copy of it?
Sure, if you want to.
Oh, okay. Where was this picture taken?
That's down in front of one of Bakken's cabins.
Okay.
And that's on the beach by the lake,
Yeah,
Wild
we
Rice
used
Lake.
to have a beach there. Yep. I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself here.
No,
with-
you're not.
With you or not, but this was one of the places. We stayed in all those places.
Yeah, and that is just a beautiful, typical
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
early cabin.
Yeah,
And here it's referred to as Big Rice Lake.
yeah. I don't know why they did that, but it wasn't right. It was Rice Lake. And this is one of the railroaders. This is in west of where the Bakkens lived. It went down a little bit. And of course, back then they had to take ice out of the lake, transport it down into this building, and fill up with sawdust to store it for the summer for the renters. See, and this is one of the buildings that was in, and this is one of the guys.
One of his
he
fish.
He caught a fish.
Do you remember his name?
Well, the only one I knew, they call him Uncle Win.
Uncle Win.
Yeah, he was related to
Oh my God.
my future father-in-law.
Oh, here's
Oh,
one we
there's
missed.
another one there.
Yeah. And this is the beach, the way the beach used to be there in a certain time of the year.
In front of Bakkens.
Yeah. And those are fish they used to catch.
That is a wonderful picture. Can you name the people in this picture?
Well, let me see. Well, you see, that's my dad, and that's my mother, and that's my sister. Guess who that is?
That's you.
Yeah. And that's my future father-in-law and mother-in-law and my brother-in-law. And there's little Mary Jane.
And so what was Mary Jane's last name?
Rose.
Okay, so Ray Rose's daughter?
Yeah,
Okay, Mary Jane Rose.
yeah.
And were they from the same town?
They were from Toledo.
They were from Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
But Ray and your father were friends. Ray
Yeah.
and Grover were
Yep.
friends.
Yep,
Okay, so and they would vacation together.
yep. We did for a long time, and then they didn't catch fish too good, and then they split up. And Ray went up on the UP to a big lake up there, Curtis. I don't know if you ever heard of it or not.
Curtis Lake.
It was a town of Curtis.
Okay.
And the lake was there. And they were twice as big as Wild Rice Lake. And they would catch fish.
So he was always looking for a better fishing ground.
Yeah.
Huh?
And we vacationed with them a couple of times.
So how did you keep in touch with Mary Jane as you grew up?
Well, there was a time when we didn't. During the war, up until the war, we hadn't been connected very much. But after the war, we got connected and went from there.
But you always remembered her from a little girl?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, they used to visit us in Butler. And, nobody thought about a boy and a girl going sleeping in a tent. And that's what we did. we slept overnight outside our house in a pup tent. Just young kids, you know.
Yeah.
No big deal. And stuff like that. We all kept in contact. Then after the war, I made a stop in Toledo on the way back. And, I come back on the train. And we became very good friends then.
So you
And-
stopped to see the family and
Yeah, right. And here's another picture down in front there. And that's my sister. And that's Mary Jane's mother. And that's her, that's Mary Jane, and then that's me. It's back in the 20s.
that's great.
And what lake are you on there?
Wild Rice Lake.
You're on Wild Rice Lake.
Yeah.
Oh my.
We have a
Sister
lot
on
of
the
this
left,
stuff, but I just
Bill
printed
in
off
the
a few
middle.
of them.
These are wonderful pictures.
Mary Jane
My
on the
son
right.
put 'em all
and
in the
Mary Jane's
computer.
mother.
And so we can bring them all up and look at them at a time if we want to. And there's one of the vehicles we came up in. And that's me holding the fish.
And how old do you think you are about?
Oh, probably 7, 8, something like that.
Wow. So you came up and you fished, and that is a big fish you're holding there.
Yeah,
He is
almost
really
as big as me. I don't know, did I show you this one?
No.
This is one of the boats that Bakken built. This is my future father-in-law, and this fellow here, I don't know whether that's that Win or not, but this motor here isn't it? But the latest motor at the time, and it was called a Callie, C-A-L-L-I-E, I think, and it had a wheel on it like that, and you spin that thing like that
Really?
to get her started.
Wow.
And it's sort of like
Bill's
the
fish.
Orientals. You see them going down a river with a motor and a big thing sticking out the back of their boat. That's where they got the idea, I think, from that.
The boat is beautiful.
He had some bigger ones he built. Those are flat bottoms. He had some round bottoms. So
Talk about people who live a life where they're self-sufficient.
yeah,
So you've got a man that's building his own resort, building all the buildings, and then
Yeah.
he's building his boats, and
Look at
Yeah.
that motor.
an entrepreneur.
yeah.
Let's get back to your family for just a minute. You married Mary Jane, and what was Mary Jane's last name?
Rose,
Rose. That's right, Mary Jane Rose. And you had how many children?
2.
2, and what are their names?
The boy is Sean, S-H-A-W-N, and Susan.
Susan. Okay. And did they fall in love with the North Woods as well?
Oh, God, yeah. They spent most of their summers up here when they were little, because after my dad died, I fell heir to that place down there, and then my wife and my mother and the 2 kids would spend the summers up here, and then I'd ride the train up when they had it and commute back and forth to go to work, because I had pretty good vacation time, and then they took the trains off, and then I had to fly. And we just have a small place down there, but there's room for a grandma and a son and daughter-in-law, and each little kid had their little cubicle, and we had fun.
I bet you did.
Yep, we had fun.
So-
And
Let me get
of
some
course,
more.
you guys know what that is.
Little Bohemian.
That's about a year or so after the big shootout.
Look at the little trees in front, so you can see where there was really shrubbery there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have not seen that.
I have not
view.
seen this picture. And that's really helpful to understand how the FBI could be lying in wait.
that's,
There's a picture of a boy in there.
yeah, well, I had a friend, and I brought him up here. That's me back here, and that's the friend, and that's my mother over there, and my dad took the picture.
That's very cool.
But we had to visit Little Bohemia.
Yeah. Did you have lots of memories of that shootout and things, or
No,
were you
not
too little?
really. It happened before. That was when in the 30s, wasn't it?
Yeah, 34.
The only way we got water at Bakken Resort was carrying it.
Oh my.
Whoop. And that's me at the pump, where I used to go down once in a while and carry water back to the cabin.
And what year was this?
Well, that's probably, I'm probably about 7 or so.
Okay.
1930, 1929.
Yeah, around in there.
Look at that pump. And you're carrying a little bucket.
So it must have been quite an adventure for you as a little boy going up there,
Oh.
because you're really in the woods. You're really.
Oh man, I really fell in love with it. Every time we'd leave after 2 weeks, I'd cry because I didn't want to go. There's a picture of my dad and my son.
Sean and Grover.
Yep,
And so is this your cottage, or is this?
Yeah.
This is your cottage.
that's the part that my dad built. After he passed away, why then we expanded it.
So this is at the Waffle Cabin.
At the Waffle Cabin.
Yep, and then one winter we went up there and over the holidays. And that's me helping my mother. She's in her 80s. Helping her up over the snow so she could get into the place.
So you were walking in.
Yeah, well, driveways, couldn't drive in because nobody plowed it out. So
Right.
parked out ways. And I had to show you a picture of my wife. This is
Aw.
coming down the steps over at Bakken's Resort to get to the boat. To the boat.
So that's Mary Jane.
That's Mary Jane. It's all one word, by the way.
It's one word. Okay.
She's a pretty gal.
Yeah,
Now, was she the same age as you?
she was a year older than I.
Okay.
Yeah. These are just early pictures of. This is my dad and I holding my little one at the tube.
Oh.
Or John lives on one side and I live on the other side.
So is this to the right of the tube? If you're looking
That's looking out towards the lake, I think.
towards Wild Rice, right?
Yeah.
So this would be on the right. This is where the fence is now, John? You think
Yeah.
the fence
Let me
going
see.
to the bridge that you had built?
This, yeah, the tube is over,
Yeah.
is over here.
Yeah.
Our house is
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and Bill's house is over there.
Yep. So,
And of course, the last one is just me standing there with my son and daughter.
oh, what a nice picture.
She's 2 years younger than he. He is now 61. she's 59.
So, let's get back, I wanna get a couple dates so that we can put everything in context. So you were born in 1923 on May
23rd,
23rd, and Mary Jane,
21.
21.
May 21, 1922.
May 20, well, 1922.
Yeah.
And then, Sean was born,
He was born May 2nd,
and Susan, I mean, what year Sean would be?
well,
61.
go back 61 years.
Yeah. Okay. 2018 minus 61. And then, Susan,
My daughter was, what year was she born? 26, I think, May 26, I think.
okay.
All four of us in the
And
same
she's
month. See,
59.
so we
Yeah,
had birthdays.
you had busy birthday month.
Yeah.
Okay, so your job was, what did you do for a living?
I was a freight conductor on the railroad.
So you worked on the railroad as well, freight conductor.
Yeah.
And what did, you were in charge of the freight on, explain to me your job.
Well, when I started, they had a caboose on the end of the train. And of course, I always rode in the caboose. And through freight, you didn't do too much. You just get on, and once in a while, you'd have to make a little stop like at it. I used to work, when I retired, I was working from a place called Elkhart, Indiana, to Cleveland, which is about 122 miles, I think. And so that was quite a long trip. It took about 12 hours every time we went to work. So that's what I did. And the locals, why, when they didn't have any big trucks like they did when I was after I was not working, and so most of the work was in freight cars, and we'd have to go into towns and put the box cars where they could get to them and stuff like that. That's what that was.
And what was the railroad called at the time you were working?
New York Central.
Still New York Central.
Yep.
And then when you would come up north on the train, how did you get from?
Oh, I came to CNNW. I come up from through Rhinelander and Woodruff. We got off at Woodruff, and the thing would go on up to Ashland.
And where did you pick the train up in southern?
Well, I picked the CNNW up in Chicago.
So you took the New York to
New York
Chicago.
Central was Chicago, and then I changed and got on the CNNW and come on up.
And how many hour trip was that from when you started from?
That took about 16.
16
It
hours.
was a long trip.
And you do that on weekends? So
Well, no, I'm on vacation
okay.
because I used to get about 6 weeks vacation, and
Oh.
sometimes I'd take them all together, or other times I'd stretch them out. So I had more time that way. But if I had a big project I was working on, I'd take the whole darn time and get it done.
So how old were you when your dad built your cabin and bought your property?
Well, he bought the property in 1953. So that's,
So you were an adult.
boy, that's about, what is that, 70 years? 60,
Oh.
60.
771,
Need an adding machine.
60,
Here's my matting machine.
Yeah.
68 years.
68 years.
Yeah, I've had the thing.
So prior to that, you always went to Bakken's.
Yeah. My dad retired, and I don't know if there's a little house on Bakken Road. It'd be on the north side of the road. you know where are you familiar with the Bakken Road?
Yes, very.
They've got a goat farm there now.
Yes.
Well, just down beyond there, there's a little house that's on the same side of the road as that, and that's where, after Conrad lost all the thing and he had to sell it all, they built a little house right there, and he and his wife lived in the place. Well, then when my dad retired, he let my dad they pulled a little house trailer up there, mini, and they parked it in Conrad's yard for one summer. Well, then he got acquainted with, I don't know if you ever heard of Dr. Vogel or not, but he got acquainted with him, and Bakken knew him better than my dad did, so he talked him out of 100 foot on Wild Rice Lake at $10 a foot. And so that's the way that started. He built a little place there, and we went from there.
So your dad bought from Dr. Vogel 100 feet of frontage on the lake.
Yeah,
Okay. So is that little house the one that's kind of added on to?
yeah.
Yeah.
She's put a fence around the back of
Okay.
it there to keep the deer and stuff away from her
Garden.
vegetables.
And then you see the Bakkens have properties when you make the curve on Bakken Road, you go straight down that. Is that, did they keep that property, or was
Oh,
that?
you mean Len's place?
Yes.
Yeah. I think they kept it just for the family to have a place for people to come up and stay. That's the last I heard. Now, I don't know if they sold it or not, but that's the last I heard.
Okay, was that part of the original Bakken property?
Yeah, yeah.
So they had kept a piece of the,
Yeah,
waterfront.
they own part of Nelson Lake.
okay, so that's on Nelson Lake.
That's where Leonard lived.
Oh, okay, it's not on Wild Rice.
No.
And you were good friends with Leonard growing
Oh,
up?
yeah, oh,
And
yeah.
remained good friends?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, tell me about your times with Len.
Well, I don't know. We weren't real close, but I'd stop and see him, and he'd come over and see us. I got to say one thing: that guy could talk. Boy, did he love to talk. And he come over and see us. We thought he never was going to leave. He's a nice guy and everything, but you know. And he built a few things for me. He built a couple additions onto the place, and I worked with him, helped him out, save a few bucks. Like he's putting the roofs on them, like the shingles. I carry the shingles up, and he'd put them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Leonard never really fished too much that I knew of, and you know. So
Now his son Ricky fished a lot.
yeah, he was a fisherman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and Bobby McClellan, they were really close.
Yeah. So you knew Bob McClellan as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah.
Good people.
I think they were responsible for cleaning the lakes of crappies. Boy, oh boy, did they go out and catch their limit, go home, come back out, catch another limit.
That's not good.
No, you know, people like that shouldn't do that.
No, they shouldn't do that. It's not good.
But they did, and they got away with it.
Yeah.
But they both turned into pretty darn good guides and made a living that way, mostly.
So, when you were little and you came up, tell me about some of the things you did as a little boy in the 20s and 30s when you would be out on were your parents, did they let you just run around the place?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what were your adventures like?
Well, when I was 4 or 5, I'd be down in the sand, you know, playing, and right next door to where Bakken was, there was a little swampy area, and it's all built up now, but the water used to run out. They'd go up into there and run out into a little creek like, and I'd go down there, I'd dam up the creek and play around like that. And one year I got in a little trouble there. The renters that were in the various cabins would go down on the shore and build a fire, and have a fire down there. And then they close up shop and go back home and throw sand on the doggone fire. Well, I was down there walking around with my bare feet one time, and I didn't know where the thing was, and I walked into it, and it was still hot, and I burned my foot. And that wasn't fun. I remember one time, my dad always took his dog with him. He had an English setter, I think they were, not Irish, English. Well, the dumb dog got into a porcupine. Or no, I take that back, a skunk. A skunk. And my dad was so mad at him, he picked him up, took him down, and threw him in the lake, trying to get that smell off him. But it didn't work too good. I'll never forget some of that stuff.
There used to be so many skunks, I remember. And
Yeah, there
every
used to
summer
be.
the dogs would get into the skunks.
Yeah. Yeah, and he did get into porcupines one time. It wasn't really bad because my dad took the pliers and pulled him out of his mouth. But it hurt the dog pretty bad.
Yeah.
Do you remember any events going on in town when you were younger? Were there
Well-
dances or? Well, you would when you were younger. You wouldn't be going to dances.
Well, in
but anything.
1939 or 7, when was Over the Rainbow made? You remember? Any of you guys?
The Wizard of Oz.
Judy Garland. Anyhow, we went into town to get groceries, and we always went to the movies. Well, this one time the movie was going on. Well, at the time, the CCC was still in operation. You know what that was.
Yeah, huh?
And they bring the boys in on a Saturday night in the big bus or whatever you call it, and they'd all go to the movie. And they behaved. They were very nice guys. I'll never forget seeing that.
Seeing all those CCC men.
Yeah. And another time we went there to the movies, and I don't know if you ever heard of Fred Snyder or not. He was he had a very, you've heard of him, haven't you? He had a place across from,
This is 1939.
the,
1939, The Wizard of Oz.
what the hell is the name of that? Oh, no, it's down on the lake there. They had the restaurant,
Basaki's?
Basaki's. Right straight across from Basaki's, the Snites had a big house. They had-
Ed?
Huh?
His name was, what was
Fred
his?
Snite.
Snite.
And he come down with infantile paralysis or something like that, and he had to
was
be
in
in
the
an iron
Yeah,
lung. And they'd bring him into the movie.
yeah, I remember.
I'll never forget. I'd look back and there we'd be looking through a mirror to get the picture.
Now, Sharkin, Suzanne Sharkin talked about going to the movies in Woodruff and seeing Fred Snite's too, now that you talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that too.
Do you?
Yep.
Was that an outdoor movie?
No.
It was.
It's right there on Front Street there.
Okay.
Oh, crap. Just a minute. I shouldn't have had that on.
I like that.
I'll get rid of her.
I think something bad's gonna happen.
Hello? Hi there. Hey, listen, I'm not home right now, and I'm involved in something. Can you call me back this afternoon? Yeah, right. Yeah, I thought she was gonna call me yesterday, but okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. Uh, I forgot. I better turn this thing off.
Turn mine back off again too.
I am very impressed.
Yeah.
Yes. You've got 20, you've got the latest technology.
Oh, sure.
And he knows how to use it.
That is very impressive.
We text a lot.
That's nice.
Good for you.
Well, and you live your living involved technical things. I mean, working in your job, and
Well, my job wasn't anything technical about that,
but you had to think technically.
I thought technical. Yeah, right. My son was an engineer, and he just retired last year.
Uh-huh.
So he was more technical than I was because he had the big diesel engines that he drove around.
Wow. So where does Sean live?
He's from Indiana.
Indiana?
Yeah,
So he kind of kept that Ohio, Indiana.
yeah. When he retired, I wanted to go down there and be there when he came in and surprise him. Well, Mary Jane and I, or Susan and I drove down and we met up with her husband, Orris, at O'Hare, and then we drove down to Goshen. And I tried to time it just right so that I would be able to surprise him. Well, the doggone roads were all tore up on the Indiana Toll Road, and we couldn't get off at the right exit we wanted to go. So it was just the luck of the draw because we turned off at this one county road where he lived on, and we're driving down to his car, and we get a telephone call. And it's my son. He's right behind me. And he says, "What are you doing?" And he was very surprised anyhow.
So you could follow him to the.
Yeah, we were very close to his house, you know,
Yeah.
and he just caught up with us. Yeah.
So where does Susan? When you said Susan's husband's name is
Orest.
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 That's a different name.
Yep. And we all live in Greeley, Colorado.
Greeley, Colorado.
Yeah. After my wife passed away, my daughter talked me into going out there, and so I did, and it's been all right, but I don't know anybody out there like I do up here.
Uh huh. So you still come here for the summers?
Oh, 6 months.
6 months. Good for you.
Yep. I've been doing that for over 30 years.
I hope I can do that for 30 years.
Hang in there. you
Yeah,
do
I'll
it.
try to hang in there.
Yeah.
And then Sean's wife,
His wife, her name is Nancy.
Nancy. Okay.
Yeah.
And so your daughter and son-in-law live in Greeley, Colorado, and Sean and his wife live in Indiana.
Yeah, in Goshen, Indiana.
Goshen.
Goshen.
I've been to Goshen. I have very good friends there.
You do?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school there and graduated from high school there.
That's Mennonite country.
It certainly is. Amish a lot.
Uh-huh.
More Amish than Mennonite.
Well, my friends their last name is King, and which is a very common
Yeah.
name. But his family was Amish, and then he became
Oh.
Mennonite.
A prominent name is Yoder and Bontrager and
Right. So when you retired, you started spending 6 months of your life up here,
yeah.
and that was like 30 years ago that you retired.
Yeah, it was a little bit more than that, about 33.
Were you 65 when you
I was
retired?
62.
62.
Okay.
Yep, took early retirement.
That's a good thing.
They wanted to get rid of me. So they give me a little incentive. I said, okay.
That wasn't hard to take, huh?
Wasn't hard to take.
Do you remember, do you think things have changed since you were a little boy as far as the number of animals you see, or wild animals, or are things different?
Well, quite a bit. Quite a bit. There's not as many deer around, I think, as there used to be. And you used to could walk down through the woods. We'd walk from Bakken back to Nelson with a net and net minnows back there, and then we'd carry them back to Bakken and go fishing. Well, you could walk down through that trail, and there would be grouse, and they'd fly up in the trees. They just sit there. You could shoot them if you wanted to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see that too much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And frogs. Frogs, there used to be hundreds of frogs. My daughter would play with the frogs, but you don't see those anymore. And just things just change.
Yeah.
Did a lot on the lake itself change?
Hmm?
Did anything on the lake change
Well,
over the
it
years?
changed in the way of the more powerful motorboats out there now, and I'm thinking they're going to ruin Wild Rice Lake because they're out there skiing, and they cut off the top of the weeds, and the darn things float around and reseed themselves, and then they spread, and you can't do anything about it. And eventually, I think the whole darn lake's going to be weeds, and it never used to be like that.
I always remember pan fishing over by your point as it goes into the lake. There was just full of perch. I always remember perch, but you don't see perch like we used to.
No.
What lake was that?
Well, as you're coming down the river into Wild Rice, right by where the eagle's nest
Oh,
was, I always remember lots of panfish there.
yeah.
We'd
Lots of
go-
crappies.
Yeah, we'd get to go I lived over on Alder,
Yeah.
but if we got to go on the boat as children, we could row or take our 5.5 down to Wild Rice. We could never go the other way.
Well, in the spring and in the fall, around 7, 8 o'clock at night, you could go over there and park right as close as you could get to the entranceway and cast out and catch walleye. No, it ain't anymore.
No.
Can't do it. I think the Indians have a lot to do with that. Because about 1962, we came up here with my brother-in-law to close the place up, or open it up. And across the lake, there was great big nets
Really?
over there that they had set to catch fish. And this was the Indians. It wasn't the DNR or anybody like that. And now they don't do that, but now they can go around in their boats and spear. Because I sat up there and watched them lots of times in the spring.
So this is all Indian reservation, right? Let's see.
Across the lake for me, it's all ant residence.
All along the shore.
That's all res.
And then you're right here, so
Mhm.
Kohlers were
On the other
on the other side of you.
No, Kohler's are on the same side as me.
I mean, but on this
Yeah.
right side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Right about there.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna just. And then who was on the other side of you?
Well, there's let's see, there's 4 people down there. No, 3. And next door to me is people by the name of Zadras. Joe Zadra.
Zedra. ZEDRA?
ZADRA, something like that.
Okay.
And then besides them was, there was a couple moved in there, and then he died. His name was Crowley, John Crowley and Beth Crowley. And there's another house on the other side, and that's changed hands a couple of times, and
Okay.
I don't know who that lives in there now.
And so this is the boat landing.
Oh, boat landing's over there where the river comes out.
Oh yeah, the boat landing's right here.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
next, almost right next to Bill.
Yep,
Right-
right
right
by
there,
your house.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Where was Vogel's property? Was that Zadra? Did Zadra buy that from Vogel?
Yeah, they just bought it from Vogel.
Yeah,
He
So
got 300 foot.
That was Dr. Vogel.
yeah.
Yeah,
So Zadra was Dr.
boy,
Vogel.
he was a character, that Doc.
Well, tell us about him.
Well,
How long did you know him? I mean, how far are we going back? Your dad bought you in 53.
well, let's see. My dad was up there, and my mother, and they knew him pretty good. So it's before I retired and everything like that. We vacationed up there, and I knew him a little bit. Then later on, I knew him a little bit more. But he was the head surgeon, I think, over in Iron Mountain. And every weekend, he come roaring in his Pontiac station wagon. I'd look out and see him, and he'd be going down our road because he was right next door practically, because that was before Zaders built their place. And that's what he did. But he was very possessive, boy, of his property. He would plant different species of pine trees out there, and that guy would go around and he could tell you the name of every one of them. And one time, he had planted water lilies out on Nelson Lake, because he owned quite a bit of Nelson Lake property. Well, the people that were staying over, I don't know if you ever heard of Diney Mansfield or not.
Yes.
Well, they were over there. This was after Diney died. And the kids come over there in their boat, and he caught them pulling up his lilies. And that made him so mad that he said, that's it. And he plotted it out and sold the whole dang thing to for 4 different people, just to get rid of them.
That was Nelson Lake property.
Yeah. That is a deep lake too, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Very deep. Drops off quick. I remember one time Rick was out there running his dad's boat and motor, and the motor flipped off. And they never did find it.
That's why you're always supposed to have a chain on those things, right?
That's right, that's right, that's right. Yeah.
Now you vacationed up here until you were done with high school and had to go into the war?
Yeah, yeah. I was in the war for I went in 43, and then I was there till I got over with there. When was it, 46?
And did you enlist or?
Oh, no. Well, when I graduated,
What year did you graduate?
42,
42.
my friends and I, we just decided to go join the Navy. So we did, but we never got together, except the one. I got lucky. I went to Great Lakes, and after Great Lakes, I got selected to go to aviation machinist mate school at Navy Pier, and I was there at Navy Pier for about 3 months, and that was fun.
That's Chicago.
Yeah. And of course, they had a cook and baker school there too. And my other friend, he was lucky enough he got sent there. So we'd get together once in a while and do the town. sometimes his brother had a car. I'll never forget that. And we were close enough to where I lived in Goshen, like maybe 90 miles or so, and we get the weekend off, we just hop in that car and drive to Goshen. We didn't have any permission, we just went. And the one time we were coming back, and the doggone generator went out. And we got almost back into Chicago, and we used the last of the battery. And of course, we had to stop. I'll never forget that either.
Did you
Yeah.
get in trouble?
No.
You got
we
back
didn't.
in?
No, we just parked the car there in a filling station, and we were close enough to get the bus and go into town.
And then when did you get shipped overseas?
Well, might have been 44, something like that.
And where were you stationed? You were on a boat the whole time, or
No, I never was on it. The
you
only time I was on
didn't
a
fly off the boat?
only time I was on a ship was when they sent me over in LST. We went from San Francisco over to Pearl Harbor.
And what was the name of that ship?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
It was just an LST.
Uh-huh.
You know what an LST was? Well, it was not a big ship, but it was a, what would you call it? It carried vehicles and crews and stuff like that. The whole front of it would drop down. It was like a landing craft, only a humongous landing craft.
Oh.
And of course, when we left San Francisco, I'll never forget this either. We got out under the bridge a little ways, and it got rougher than a son of a gun. And of course, they put me up on the bow watch to look out for another fellow. And that thing would go up like this. We're up here, see. Down we'd go like that. Well, needless to say, I got a little ill for a couple of days.
Oh.
But after you got over that, it was okay. But it took us dang near a month. It was going back and forth to Pearl Harbor.
So they were zigzagging on purpose so you
Yeah.
wouldn't get hit.
Yeah.
They always talked about that in the history books.
Yeah, I got a laugh though. We come up on one time, and I said, "What the hell are we doing?" And he says, "They're challenging this aircraft carrier over there." Just like if that aircraft carrier would have won it, if it had been a Jap, it could have blown us out of the water. But it wasn't. It was one of ours. Yeah.
So when you came back from the war, then you got married,
Yes, I did.
and
Took a while, but we got married in, what was it? What the hell year was that? Can't remember now. I know we got married in November. It was shortly after. Must have been in the early 50s. 49. No, maybe it's 48. Yeah, it was 48.
48.
November of 48.
Did Mary Jane work?
Yeah, she was a very good stenographer.
Oh.
And that's what she did. She worked for the Navy during the war. There in Toledo, they had a little office. And anyhow, we got married and went to Goshen. She came up, left Toledo just like that, her hometown, and came up there and worked for about a year or two. And then we started having families, a son and a daughter, and she didn't work then. All the time they were in grade school, kindergarten, she didn't work. But after they got growing a little bit, then she got right back into it.
Oh, she did.
And work, well, she was working all the time as I was, up until the time I found out I was going to retire. I called her from Cleveland. I said, Mary Jane, you got to tell your employer you're quitting. I says, you got to quit. Well, she wasn't too sure about that, but she did. And as soon as we got retired, right up here.
So it was in your blood to be up north,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
which happens to so many people.
yeah. Except I don't care much for the winter.
Too long or too cold or?
It gets dark too darn quick. And then they got all the snow, it doesn't know enough to stop. and out in Colorado, it doesn't do that. It'll snow, but 2 days it's gone. At the most. You can get a humongous snowstorm, and the sun will come out,
Melted
it's
right
gone. Because you get well over 300 days of sun out there.
Well, can you tell us what it was like when your dad bought the property and you started building, and then, you know, as that whole thing, and how your kids got involved? And
Well,
that's a big story.
he built the property, and Leonard and his dad built the thing, you know. And I wasn't too much involved in that. I just, when I got vacation, then I came up, when he was retired, he was up here for a short time before he died. He died in 62. Built it in 53 and died in 62. And then,
Did they stay up here all summer too when they were retired?
that's the strange thing. He would never stay here 6 months like I do. He couldn't stand it. He had to get back to Goshen. I said, what the heck for? But, yep. He enjoyed it immensely, just like I do.
So if you walk through the beginning of the house, what was it like when your father first built it? What if the floor plan? Can you talk us through the floor
Oh,
plan?
heck, it was just a small place. It was like 24 by 24. And we enlarged it to like it's 40 something by 24.
So you and had Len help add on.
Yeah, yeah. He would get a project started, and then I'd take over and put the finishing touches on it.
So you have a lot of sweat equity in it.
Oh yeah, yes I do. Yep. And now my son is doing the same thing. Yeah.
Does now your son and daughter? How much of their time do they spend up here?
Oh, my son is lucky enough. You know, he's retired now. And he's lucky enough to his wife will let him do it. And he's up here most of the time with me, which helps me immensely because, you know, I can't do things like I used to, and he does it. So that's very nice. I'm very lucky.
Sounds like you have a good family.
Somebody coming in.
You know, when you were in your younger retirement days, did you have in your wife? Did you have something in particular you enjoyed doing in town, or were you involved in anything, or you enjoyed your time by the lake and kind of kept to yourself?
I never got involved too much, except with this guy here a little bit.
Well, how did you
we
guys
go-
get to know each other?
We go back quite a ways.
Yeah,
How did you get to know him?
Through the kids.
our kids grew up together.
Oh,
You know, we're right across the river from
yeah.
them.
I think it was Jane and Pa
Yeah.
introduced them, didn't they?
I think so. You know, that Paws were owned a home right on the, right at the landing.
Wild Rice Landing, so she
Is
was
that Paul, like
Paul,
P-A-U-L?
P-A-U-G-H.
P-A-U-G-H, and their name, what,
Russ,
Russ? And
Jane Ann.
Jane Ann, okay.
Jane Ann was the daughter. I don't remember his wife's name.
I don't remember what her husband's name was, but, I know, we know Jane Ann before we know you, and,
Yeah.
Okay.
How'd you get to meet them?
we got out in the landing there and swim.
Oh,
When I was a kid, I'd go down to the tube and fish, and the Donaldsons that we talked about
Yeah.
days ago. There was a couple that came up from someplace down in Illinois named Sam and Tiny Donaldson, and they'd come up and they'd set a tent up right there at the landing, Wild Rice Landing, and they'd stay there for a couple of weeks, and they'd come down to the bridge and fish every day. So I was down there all the time, so I got to know them, and they were really, really nice people. But you know, that's part of what we did there. And I suppose I bumped into Jane Ann. I think Jane Ann was pretty much our age.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I've met her because I'd be over visiting with the Donaldsons and she'd be out swimming, so we.
how old are you, John?
I just turned 80.
You don't look like you're 80.
Believe me, the wear and tear is there. Yeah. So, but anyway, God, we've known Bill and Mary Jane forever and ever and ever, and their kids.
Are your kids in the same age group, or they're younger?
Yeah, no, I think Chris is older than Sean, and I think Sean and Brent are the same age.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Missy and Susan are, I think, the same
They're
age,
about the
within a
same.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really fun how your father came up here and formed lifelong friends. You came up here, and now your kids. It's
Yeah.
three
The
generations.
story goes on.
Yeah. Now, what about their kids? Your kids' kids?
Well, there aren't any.
Oh, no grandchildren.
My son has a daughter, which is might as well have nothing, because they do nothing together.
Oh, sorry.
And well, I won't go into that, but they just don't fraternize.
That's more the wife, the ex-wife.
Hmm?
Isn't that more because of the ex-wife has kept the daughter?
No, it's
Dad?
because of his daughter. She's a culprit.
Oh.
So you guys, did you fish together?
No.
I never knew he fished that much, to tell you the truth. When did
Kept
you-
it a secret, huh?
Betcha.
Yeah.
You were talking about Diney Mansfield. Can you tell us about him? I don't know exactly, but I always heard stories that he had something to do with baseball. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was coach in Madison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about that.
Well, I didn't really know him other than I knew he was a baseball coach.
For what, the University of Wisconsin?
I know he had a son that got in the Air Force,
Yeah.
and he was flying jets. And one day, you know, all of a sudden he'd show up, and right over the top of our house, and
In his jet.
yeah,
Yeah.
and about scared the heck out of my mother because it made a big sonic boom, you know.
I remember seeing him do that.
Was he out of Marquette or something?
No,
Was
I
it?
think Duluth, I think. But he flew, I don't know, you probably
Yeah.
aren't familiar with the jets, but it was an F-94. It was a twin-engine jet. And it,
What years would that have been?
Hmm?
What years would that have been that he was flying over?
50s.
70s, wouldn't it?
Huh?
In the 70s?
I don't think it was that late.
Seems like it.
Or-
I don't think it was in the 80s.
What was that stealth bomb? I swear, I was on the river one day, and I think this would have been in the 80s. I saw a stealth bomber coming over. But that might have been, I hadn't had any wine or anything, but I looked up and there was this huge flat plane flying over.
How much noise did it make?
A lot. Oh, no, it didn't. I don't know.
By a flying saucer.
Don't laugh. I'll tell you a story. One night, Barb and I were getting ready for bed. This is when they still had the cranberry. And a little preamble was necessary. Usually, we still had the marsh, so I always had to keep an eye on the weather during the summer. And whenever we went to bed, I would just step out on the deck off of our bedroom and look up and check to see if there was any wind. You could see the wind, the trees or the leaves rustling if there was wind. That was good because that meant that the air would be mixing and it wouldn't get cold in the beds. You wouldn't have to worry right then and there about going out to do something to protect the vines. So we're getting ready for bed, so I walk out onto the deck and I look up to see if there were stars overhead. If there weren't, that was cloudy. That's good. That's like a blanket over you. It keeps things warm. I look up, and all of a sudden, there's a pattern of lights that go like that. Absolutely no sound. Absolutely nothing. I have no idea what that was that I saw, but I know that I have never ever seen anything like that. I just have no explanation for it. And I've spent thousands of hours outside at night looking at the sky while I was protecting the cranberries from frost. Never saw something that I couldn't explain until I saw that.
Wow. So this Diney Massfield, is the family still here?
Yeah, I think they
They
are.
are, yeah. I
But he
know
was
they
a
are,
coach
yes.
in what years, do you know? I mean, I saw that from the 40, from
Well,
little girl on, I saw that
I can
name.
remember this. Diney, when I graduated from high school, I was going to the University of Wisconsin my freshman year. And that summer, my dad introduced me to Diney. I knew of Diney, but I'd never really met him. And Diney referred me to some haberdashery in Madison for clothing, and he said, when you go in, tell him I sent you. And that was 1956.
Okay. So, now, did you know Fred Kopp?
Who?
Fred,
Cop?
Kopp.
yeah,
No, I didn't know
no.
You didn't know Fred Kopp?
him. I met him once, that's all.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you know, he's way down at the end of the lake.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
those people on the south end of the lake, you
Right.
don't associate with them.
Wrong side of the lake
Yeah,
instead of
right.
wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah. I remember I forgot to say, that one of the pictures that I used to have showed a big, tall Indian down by the lake. And I always thought that fellow's name was Head Flyer. And I asked Leonard, I says, is his name Charlie Head Flyer? And he thought he was. And they used to live up the river from Wild Rice Lake there. They lived between H and Wild Rice Lake. Because I remember my mother remembered they would go up there and fish. Back to those days, you could get up that darn river, but now you can't hardly get up there. And the women would have their clothes hanging outside and drying and stuff like that. Well, anyhow, I had this picture, and I wanted to find out who the heck that guy was for sure. So I thought, well, I'll take it over to the res, into the museum, and see if they know. Well, I took it in there, and this young fellow, what the heck was his name, Marcus,
Oh, Marcus,
Oh, Gauthier?
Huh?
Gauthier?
No.
No, Marcus,
Anyhow,
another common name.
his first name was Marcus. Barbara knows his name. Anyhow, I gave it to him, and I said, I'd like to get it back. I said, because he didn't know who it was either. Never got it back.
Oh, no.
I went back over there several times trying to track that thing down. Nothing. Boy, I made a mistake there. I should have made a copy of it. Because he was a big, big Indian.
Now, when you bring up Head Flyer's name, last week we talked to Bob Cassine, and he talked about Head Flyer coming to his farm one night because he wanted to spend the night because he'd been drinking too much. And he said his dad, do you remember that? In the interview? His dad pointed his wagon, he was in a wagon. He said, now I'm going to point the horses right down the road here, and if you keep going straight, he took them out to Highway H. He said, if you keep going, if you just let those horses keep going straight, they're going to take you home. And so that makes sense because that's all in that same geographic area.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, this fellow.
and there's a lake, there's a Head Flyer lake right on the other side of White Sand where Dillman's Lodge is. There's a small lake named Head Flyer.
Yeah.
And what did they, do you know anything more about Head Flyer besides?
Oh, I know. He was a guide, and he was guiding my dad and some of the other guys around to catch fish.
Len Bakken knew.
Huh?
Bakken knew him.
Oh, yeah.
And what year would you say this was?
Oh, heck, this is the 1900s. Late 1900s,
Like 1920s, 1930s?
probably around in there somewhere.
When you were just little.
No, I didn't see him. I never saw him.
Okay.
I just saw
so
the picture.
early, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I should have said maybe earlier in 1900s. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah.
And also, when we were talking to Cassine, they had the dance hall. Do you ever remember the dance hall on Alder Lake? Did your family ever go over there?
I don't recall that at all.
Okay. But he talked about his mother talking about going over across Alder Lake from where the Loveless, no, it wasn't Cassine, it was Loveless. Yeah, it was Loveless. Loveless, his mother was a Loveless. She'd go across Alder Lake, and there were Native Americans camped in an open area where there was blueberries like crazy, and they would go over and get blueberries from them.
I'll bet that was Maynard's.
Hmm?
I'll bet that was Maynard's.
Who?
That,
What she's talking about?
yeah, well, Maynard's lived right, let's see, where are we?
Now she's talking about across here.
Yeah, right, well, there used to be an open field where Town Line Road and Bakken Road intersected. There was an open field that went all the way to the lake, and Maynard's had that property.
Oh.
And I'll bet that's where they went to pick berries.
But she said that the natives would come and pick all these berries, and then they would sell them to people.
Yeah.
Blueberries.
Blueberries. Just, he described it as just a wonderful patch of blueberries.
Yeah, I'm almost sure that's what it was.
Well, when you get up to Manitowish, not Waters, Manitowish, and you go 47 across the river there, over to the left, there's a great big field, and years ago, we used to go there and pick blueberries there.
It's hard to find them now.
Yeah, it really is.
Did you ever have any summer jobs when you stayed up here?
What would I want to work?
Well, did you, as a teenager, did you go carousing around with people, or
Not much.
no? You
No.
stayed pretty much at the cabin, and
No.
what did you like to do as a teenager up here?
Oh, I just messed around over there and in the property, painted the house or something like that, or fish. I
So-
remember when we first started getting television, boy, was that something. I, first TV we got, we went up to Ironwood. There was secondhand televisions they were selling, and I bought a television, and it worked pretty good. And it was a lot different than TVs today.
Do you?
Sometimes you'd get a signal, and sometimes you wouldn't get a signal back in those days. But now it's pretty. They've got more power, and you can bring in stuff. And you got DirecTV, of course.
I remember it was a big deal if we could get WLS in at night on the radio.
Yeah.
Could
yeah.
only get it at night.
Right.
Yeah.
That's strange.
Yeah, the big Chicago station, rock and
Yeah.
roll station.
Yeah, and then when we got Channel 12, boy, we thought we were living.
Franklin McCormick, did you ever hear him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, God, I spent a lot of time with Franklin out when I was watching Frost out in the marsh. And the torch hour, you remember the torch hour?
I don't know if I remember the torch.
Oh, yeah, he used to have that. He had a long lost love that he would commemorate every now and then. It wasn't every night, but every now and then he'd have the torch hour on.
So then when you started coming up with your family, when you were married, what was it like then? Did your wife like to fish, or
Oh, yeah.
she was a
She
fisher?
liked the place as well as I did. Yeah.
Did you frequent many businesses up here, you and your wife? Like the shopping, or is there a business that stands out
Well,
in
there
your
used-
mind?
Used to have a ladies' store up here in town, and she liked to come up and shop in that place.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. Yeah.
Did you do much of your grocery shopping up here?
More
Or did you bring up food?
of the shopping we did, we went into town,
In the Woodruff?
Minocqua.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't go to Harry's or Laporte's much?
Went to Harry's. Harry's was a pretty good store back in those days.
Ealerts?
Harry had a good store, really did.
He did. Ehlert's was
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
laundromat
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
the liquor store pretty much after.
Yeah.
We when we first got up here, we didn't have a phone, and we used to. Mrs. Hewitt used to have a phone outside the place. Well, we go up there and call home once in a while. That's the only way we had connection.
At Ehlert's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Hewitt was something else. And if it was a bad weather up here, you know, and you go in there and you talk to her, she says, "Oh, you should have been here last week." She just putting us on, you know.
Yeah.
She was, and then him, that poor guy, lost his legs. Did you ever meet Mr. Hewitt?
I don't remember Mr. Ehlert. I remember Mrs. Ehlert.
Well, he cut meat. They had the meat department back there. And then he couldn't do it because he lost his legs there. I don't know what the heck, whether he had
Diabetes.
diabetic or what he was. But poor guy, he'd be back there sitting on top of the cooler. Just sitting there, you know.
Oh.
Couldn't do anything. But he didn't last too long then.
She always wore, I remember she always wore an apron in the store.
Yeah.
It's Art Wheeler.
Art. Did you ever go to Marty Kane's or your family?
Oh, yeah. I went fishing with Marty.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, tell us about that.
Yeah, I don't know if I should or not.
I think you should.
Because there was a fella, they had a store next door to Marty's. And it was a sporting goods store. And the guy's name was Harry Winters. And he was from Goshen, for strange as it may seem. And of course, my dad knew him. And so I was in the bar one night, my wife and and I got talking to Marty, and well, he says, I'll take you fishing. Because I told him, I said, I haven't been able to catch a muskie, which I hadn't at the time. He said, we'll take you out. So next day I met up with him over on Island Lake somewhere. I forget where it was. And we went fishing. And lo and behold, I caught a muskie. But it wasn't quite big enough. And I had this big tackle box, see. And I said, what the hell am I going to do with him? He says, put him in your tackle box. We won't tell anybody. So I did. If we ever got caught, I'd probably had a big fine.
So you caught your first muskie on Island Lake.
Illegally.
Illegally. I always remember that big deal about the measuring everything. It was like, oh, stretch it out a little. Stretch it out.
Yeah, yeah.
What else do you remember about Marty Keynes?
He's pretty wild.
Was he?
Boy, yeah, boy, he'd drink. He came back after the war, and, you know, he was in the war, too. And he got into alcohol, and he had a nice wife.
Ethel.
Yeah, she was a very nice lady. I think she was a school teacher, I think.
She was. I think she was wasn't she a PE teacher at Lakeland?
She could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really remember that for a fact, but it's,
Well,
I think so.
my parents wouldn't leave me and my brother and sister at Alderwood. My grandparents' father owned Alderwood. And at the time, when we were real little, it was pretty isolated back there.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't leave us, so we had to go with them to Marty Keynes. I spent a lot of hours sitting in Marty Keynes with
In the bar?
with my little 7-Up waiting so that I could go home. But Ethel was always very sweet to the kids
Yeah.
that came in there. And they had a deer. Do you guys remember when they had a deer that came in the bar?
No, I never saw that.
No.
It would actually come in the bar and people would feed it
Oh, for gosh sake.
stuff and walk back out when it was done.
They
I'll
had,
be darned.
they had a bear there, Billy the Bear, you remember that?
Yep, I do.
Did you enjoy any other establishments in town?
Oh, I like Little Bohemia pretty good.
So
I
did
got-
you know Emil?
Yeah, I knew Emil. He smoked a pipe, and so did I. And we thought, I got a picture of him at home there where I went in one night. And
Is this Emil Senior or Emil Junior?
Junior,
Okay, Junior.
yeah. Yeah. He was a very nice guy, I thought. We ran into him once up at Keep Smiling. You remember Keep Smiling George? And we'd been drinking quite a bit. And he wanted to buy me a drink, and I told Mary Jane, I said, I better not drink anymore. So I said, I'll take a rain check on that emo. And I never got to do that, but yeah, I liked him. He was a nice fella. He was a nice person to run a bar like that.
Kind of more gentleman bar.
Well, you know, he was friendly.
Yeah.
He's not like Fred Thiessen. You remember him over at Little Bohemia?
Mm-hmm.
He'd walk on that from the kitchen into the bar, walk right by you, and never say hi, glad to see you, anything.
Did you know Emil's wife,
Doreen?
Which one?
Doreen?
Yeah. Yeah,
She was a nice lady.
nice lady. Yeah.
What was your favorite meal?
Well, I know one thing that we liked was the soup, liver dumpling soup. Boy, oh boy, could what's her name make that soup?
Marie.
Yeah.
That was their specialty.
Yep.
Yeah, sure was. That and the roast duck.
But now you go up to Mercer's to the Pines, and they have the best German food you could want to ever get. Schnitzel or ham hocks.
Yep.
Boy, you get the biggest ham hock up there I ever saw. You ever have one?
I have never had a ham hock.
Boy, my son and daughter, and daughter-in-law, and son-in-law love those hanks.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. He has really made that into something up there, that Irv.
He's quite a character.
He's a character. Fantastic memory. He can meet you once or twice, he's got you, man. You go in there and say, oh, hello, so-and-so.
Yeah.
What is his last name?
Hmm?
What is Irv's last name?
Irving.
Irving.
Yeah.
Irvin. That's his.
Irving.
Irv is Well, Irv is his nickname.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Marge. Marge. Is
Marge.
She's wonderful.
Very friendly lady. Boy, oh boy, can she cook. Baked chicken out of this world.
She works hard.
Yeah.
Well, let's see now. So Harry's, Ehlert's, Marty Kane's, Little Bohemia, Keep Schmilin.
Yeah.
Where was Keep Schmilin now? I can't think.
That's the Northern Lights.
Right by the
Oh.
dam.
Okay, right. Keep
It's
Schmilin.
named Aurora Borealis now.
Mr. Ehlert, he had a very broken dialect. My mother used to, he had a store, you know, and one end of it, this is before they had the gas business there, he had it set up for a little bakery. And somebody over by the res would bake the stuff and bring it in there, and my mother would go there and work part-time for him.
Oh, well, that was nice.
Yeah.
What did your mom bake? That was.
Hmm?
What kind of things did your mom bake?
She didn't bake, she sold it.
Oh, she sold it.
They made some other people over on the res made it
Okay.
and brought it over. Yeah.
So, do you ever remember seeing any Native Americans on the other side of the lake camping or?
Well, the only thing I saw was them doing
Those nets?
fishing out there
Yeah.
and ice fishing. Sometimes we come up in the wintertime and way across from us where the river comes into the lake, there'd be Indians out there doing their thing through the ice under a little tent-like thing, you know. I saw that. But as far as being up on land and seeing them on that side of the lake, I never saw them. But who was it? A couple guys thought they were connected with the res, and they built that house over there.
Yeah, that fell apart. Financially, it was compromised from the start, and actually Brad Trapp
Yeah, one of the traps.
was involved in it, and BJ Laporte was one of the investors in it, and there was a falling out over something.
Yeah.
And BJ wound up suing Brad Trapp, and the whole thing went to pieces.
So, do you remember Jerry Trapp?
Oh yeah, I know him. I see him every once in a while. He lives over on Alder, doesn't he?
And
Well, I think
what?
he's-
Who's on Wild Rice right at the end?
Well, I
What-
think Tammy has a house there now, Jerry's
Okay.
daughter.
But Jerry used to have that
He used
property.
to have, Petrie's now own the house that Jerry built there.
Oh, I see.
Smiths used to have it, didn't they?
Who?
Smiths.
That would be years ago.
There was a fire, and when Beverly, Jerry's wife, was
Yeah.
living there.
But
and
that's
the house
on-
burned down and they rebuilt it.
That's a different spot. That's on the river.
Yeah,
Bev Trapp had her own house on the
yeah, it was
river.
around the corner. It
Yeah.
wasn't right on the lake, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
behind it.
But this property's right at the creek of the Trout River.
Right where the mouth of the river
Yeah.
comes in. It's right there.
wasn't the Smiths, didn't they have the grocery
Judy
store?
Who?
Smiths, a real estate person.
Oh, Judy,
Yeah,
Judy Arnold.
her
Judy
husband,
Schmidt Arnold.
her husband got killed or died.
Yeah, he was killed in an automobile accident.
Yeah,
I don't remember that for a fact, Bill, but it could be. I know there was a period of time when that property was kind of in flux. for
I'm
one
pretty
reason.
sure that they had it for a short time
They could.
until he died.
Yeah, and then maybe they sold it and the Petries bought it.
Well, I remember when he took over the store, he was big time, and he had more people working in there than he needed.
Which store was that?
Harry's,
Harry's. Oh,
yeah.
Schmidt.
Smith's had it for a while.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now, Bill, when you thinking back to your very younger days on the lake,
Yeah.
what do you think the most treasured memory is? Or I maybe one or two, or you close your eyes and you think, what made you the most comfortable about living up north?
Oh, the beauty of the place. Like, I'm sitting in my living room now, watching TV about 9 o'clock at night, and the moon's full, and it's clear. I can look up and see that beautiful moon shining down through there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you've been to many places in your life. How would you rank Manitowish waters?
Oh. Well, it's about as good as it can get.
I think
I
we
don't.
all
You
agree.
can't compare it to any big town or anything, but it's got its own personality. Like they say, the last person leaving Manitowish, please turn out the lights.
Yes, I've seen that sign. And what would you say one of the, besides population growth, would be a huge change from when you remember being up here in your younger days to right now, on your lake or within the community? Or
Well, I know there was a change when LaPorte's burned down, and that changed quite a bit. And I don't know if what the heck was the guy that and his wife had the store next door there that it got involved in that fire. I think they sold stuff.
Oh,
The Village Grill?
No. He died. He went into hospital.
the lobby?
Huh?
Daliabi.
Daliabi,
Daliabi.
Cello
Yeah.
and Tony.
Cello and Tony.
Yeah,
But they were next door.
yeah,
Yeah, that variety store. That was pretty special.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you remember going in there as a
Oh,
kid?
yeah. My kids really remember. I know they went through the fire and they found one of the little animals that they used to sell over there in that fire. How I got there, I don't know. But they thought they really had a prize when they found that darn thing. Yeah. That town has changed quite a bit. Instead of Daliabi's, now it's got a flower shop in there. In that vicinity.
That was the original LaPorte store.
Hmm?
That was the original LaPorte store
Yeah. Yeah, they got a picture there of that.
of George standing in front of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, was your parents' house where your house is now?
No,
Where'd your parents? Did they live out on the marsh?
they lived out on the marsh. That site is now a cranberry bed.
Oh.
But the house is across the river from us and on our Archery Drive or Archery Road.
Okay.
It's, oh gosh.
Is that where, Brent?
That's where Brent lives now.
Oh, and that's the original house.
That's the original
That's
home- the
important to
homestead
note.
lot. And then, originally, if I can figure this out, it was about there. That's where when it was built, and then we needed the land for cranberries. So we were gonna tear it down, but we were using it for housing, and we had to replace the housing. When we checked things out, it turned out that we could move it for a lot less than it would cost us to build a new house, so that's what we did.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked you that because I was thinking about that. As a kid, I didn't remember a building back there.
No, it wasn't.
Bill, can you think of anything else from Manitowish Waters that you would like to add? Some history that
Well,
you.
I can't think of anything too much right now. I know there wasn't Manitowish Waters down where the Blue Bayou is. Before the Blue Bayou was there was a store there, and I think it burned, didn't it?
Kerner's.
Virgin Timber Inn, Kerner's Virgin
Yeah.
Timber Inn. And you remember going in there?
Yeah.
Well, tell us what you remember about that.
Oh, God, that's so long ago. I don't know. I just remember the building and everything.
It was a beautiful building.
It was, yeah, in the Oval Bar. And then that little coffee shop they had next door, that was kids hang out.
You know,
You can not listen to me, but I'm sorry I'm adding things, but you know what's different is when we were kids, there was more for kids, like the Virgin Timber Inn, you could go and be on one side and there was entertainment for you. You could go to Voss's and they had all the
Yeah,
arcade part where if your parents were at Voss's for some other reason, like in the Lavi store, it was really a kid's place where you could go buy puzzles or
yeah.
so in that and I just thought of that as you were putting all that together, that was really kind of nice for the for summer.
It was, and life was a slower pace.
It was.
And you just spent more time doing things outside.
Yeah, outside.
Yeah.
Tell us what you remember about the dump. See, now that's something.
well,
You know.
first of all, I got to tell you about one other thing, then I'll go you remember the 30-30 Club? People would go there for entertainment. But the dump we go to is over in Boulder, where you know where the dump is over in Boulder now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's laid out a lot differently than it used to be, because when you drove into it, there was a big circle that you could drive around. There was also a higher level thing that you could drive up, and we used to drive up there at night and watch the bear come in and paw around in there and looking for food. And that was quite interesting. But,
That is a really good memory. Did your kids get to experience that too?
oh yeah, yeah. They would look forward to going to the dump. I went over there one time. When you could drive around there, people would come over there and dump pick. Well, I was one of them because I drove up beside, getting ready to throw some stuff in there, and I saw these 78 records laying there, and they had what's Harry's wife's name? Come on, William.
Whose wife?
Harry.
Elvina.
Alvina's name on the records. She was getting rid of the records. And so I took them home. And they played. As it turned out, it was my kind of music, too. You could get all kinds of stuff. I picked up a rocker over there one time. It was about half burnt. And I took it home, and I rebuilt that son of a gun. And then my daughter was into weaving, and she wove something you could sit on, you know, and made it operable. But the hard part was making the rockers. It was a rocker, see. So I took a big board, siding board, and I tried to cut the form out, you know. And I finally got where I wanted it, and I made that into a rocker. And I think Sean, my son, still's got it down there in Indiana. I like to build stuff, you know. Picture frames. I made a lot of picture frames.
You also made a lot of the model airplanes.
Yeah, I made some model airplanes too.
Did you make a model of the plane that you flew in during the war?
No, I never did that. No.
He was a real fan of the Red Baron, though.
Oh.
Yeah, I did when I was going to Navy Pier there. We had a plane that we worked on there. What was it? PBM? TBM?
PBY.
Huh?
PBY or TBM?
No,
TBM?
that one you made.
That's a TBM.
Yeah. Well, I was telling John about it, and he made me a one of them. And of course, he's 100 times better model builder than I'll ever be. And so he gave it to me in a case, and I have it sitting at home there now. And that was they used to ask questions. They'd booger this thing up so it wouldn't run, and they'd ask us to what we would do to get it to run. Well, I got lucky one day, and I diagnosed what was wrong with it. And so every time a guy would do that, he'd get to ride the thing back into the hangar. Big deal. So that's what I did. I lucked out there.
You never told me that.
Huh?
You never told me that.
Yeah. Sure, I got up in the cockpit of that thing, and those idiots down below pulled me back into
Whitey. By the way, that TBM that he mentioned that I made, that was George W. Bush's airplane. George H.W. Bush's
Yeah.
airplane, the one he was shot down in. And he's quite a fan of the TBMs, and he liked George W., so H.W., so.
You heard the story about George, how he got shot down, didn't you?
I'm not sure I remember. I know
Well,
he
there
was
was,
so lucky.
There was an Iwo Jima, and then there was another Jima. I can't think of the whole name. It was, they all had a Jima on the back of them. But this one had radio operators on there, and Americans like to go over and bomb the heck out of them. Well, they'd shoot back, and once in a while they'd shoot somebody down. And there's a story, a book out about it. They capture those guys and just treat them terrible. And no one wanted to get shot down and get captured by the Japs. But George H.W. was lucky. He was doing that thing, flying over the island, and they got hit pretty hard, and they had to crash. So it did. They lit out in the middle of between the two islands, and they're far enough away that the Japs couldn't get out to get to them right away. And in the meantime, a sub came up and picked George up out of the water and saved him. Otherwise, he'd have been back there captured by the Japs.
Right.
Yep, and now, when he got inaugurated, they pulled one of those planes down Pennsylvania Avenue. I don't know if you were a member of that or anything. You remember that?
Wow.
And that plane is sitting down in his museum.
I went to his museum. That was really
Did
a
you
good
see an
museum.
airplane there?
I don't remember that because I wasn't focused on airplanes, but
Yeah.
that was a great museum. His
His
library,
Yeah.
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 Well, you know, the guy that wrote the book about the Iwo Jima, James Bradley,
Yeah.
he was here,
Yeah.
was it 2 years ago?
2.
3 years?
It'll be 3 years
3
ago.
years ago.
Hmm?
But his sister has a place on Benson Lake.
Really?
Yeah, she'd be a great person if you guys are interested in when James comes back.
Love to talk to her.
Yeah, but her dad was one of the men that,
Put the flag up.
Yeah, one of the guys raised the flag.
Yep, that was quite a thing.
Wow.
yeah,
I think, well,
think
we
it's
had
about
you
time to
talking for 2 hours.
Put this thing away.
but you know what? It is such an honor to have you come in and to hear your stories. And you
Yeah.
brought in some really invaluable
You know, I hope-
information and pictures that really are important.
Yeah.
Yeah, your
See what I
pictures
told you?
are.
We're
He kept
so
saying-
lucky.
I don't know what they wanna talk to me about. I said, well, you get there.
Well, Bill, thank you so much.
And if,
You've got
You're
great
welcome.
information.
if
Thank
you've got
you.
a few minutes, can we?